dedicated disciple of Srila Prabhupada, who's part of a very dynamic, well, not just part, who organized and led and gave vision to what I've heard from many ISKCON leaders as being the most dynamic preaching outreach community in North America. And he's, as most of you have met him, so you know what a lovely, thoughtful, exemplary devotee Prabhuji is, and how he tolerates, us in spite of everything. He's a very loving gentleman, and I think carrying on the tradition of Srila Prabhupada's personal example so wonderfully. I first met Prabhuji at one of the North American Temple Presidents meeting, and it was like, it wasn't like the first time it was the first time we met, but Prabhuji immediately spoke in such a way that I just felt so comfortable and warmly received. And every interaction between Prabhuji and other devotees I've seen has been like that. So he's just an amazing, exemplary devotee, not just in terms of knowledge, but in personal behavior. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for giving us association here in Oregon. So without further ado, I'll leave it to His Grace Kalakantha Prabhuji. Ki Jai.
Thank you very much, Sachinandan Prabhu. Hare Krishna, everyone. Nice to be here with you today. Should we start with a little kirtan? Is that all right?
Haribol. I think the rest of us can mute so we don't create like echoing sort of things, if that's okay.
Thank you. I have my electronic mridanga here, so please bear with us. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadhari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadhari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Jamuna Tirambanachari. Jamuna Tirambanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadhari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Jamuna Tirambanachari. Jamuna Tirambanachari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. I hope everyone can hear me clearly. Again, it's wonderful to be with all of you, my old friends here in ISKCON Portland, my alma mater, and always a beloved temple for me. Jai Satchidananda Prabhu asked me to speak a little about Srila Prabhupada this afternoon, or this morning for you, because we just celebrated his Vyas Puja, and we're all meditating on him as we go through these strange days in our lives. Srila Prabhupada went through so many difficult times. His failing business, his estranged family, his being cheated out of the first temple he tried to open in Jhansi, his poverty, his determination through all kinds of difficult circumstances. That's an inspiration to all of us. So whatever we may be going through now, because we have Srila Prabhupada in our life, it's like having a GPS. We have a direction. We know what way to go so that we can continue making progress. Because after all, this material world is dukkhalayam ashashvatam. It was never meant for as a place for us to find a permanent settlement and happiness. So today I'd like to start by reading a little offering from Srila Prabhupada to his spiritual master. I'm going to share screens with you so that you can read along. And this is my particular hobby and joy in service to Prabhupada. I enjoy writing. So Srila Prabhupada wrote an offering for his spiritual master in 1936, a poem, which Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati liked very much and would even read to his guests. So that poem, 50 years later, inspired me to start trying to write poetry in glorification of my spiritual master. And so after we'll read Srila Prabhupada's, then I'll read one or two of mine and talk about my realizations as a very fortunate disciple of Prabhupada, and also what it means to be a follower of Prabhupada for generations to come. So first, here's Srila Prabhupada's Vyas Puja offering. Adore, adore ye all the happy day, more blessed than heaven, sweeter than May, when he appeared at Puri, the holy place, my Lord and Master, his divine grace. O my Master, the evangelic angel, give us thy light, light up our candle. Struggle for existence, a human race, the only hope, his divine grace. Misled we are, all going astray. Save us, Lord, our fervent pray. Wonder thy ways to turn your face, adore thy feet, your divine grace. Forgotten Krishna, we fallen souls, pay most heavy the illusion's toll. Darkness around, all untrace, the only hope is divine grace. Message of service thou hast brought, a healthful life, as Chaitanya wrought. Unknown to all, it's full of grace. That's your gift, your divine grace. Absolute to sentient thou hast proved. Impersonal calamity thou hast removed. This gives us a life anew and fresh. Worship thy feet, your divine grace. Had you not come, who had told the message of Krishna, forceful and bold? That's your right. You have the mace. Save me, a fallen, your divine grace. The line of service is drawn by you, is pleasing and healthy like morning dew. The oldest of all, but in new dress, miracle done, your divine grace. Such a beautiful, cogent offering. So much wisdom packed in these simple lines. I wanted to just share this first verse on the screen. Message of service thou hast brought, a healthful life as Chaitanya wrought. Unknown to all is full of brace. That's your gift, your divine grace. I love that word brace. Isn't it? You think of bracing, something bracing is like refreshing and stimulating and focuses your attention and leaves you feeling energized and wonderful. I'm thinking of the campouts we had during the Vaishnava boys camp. We would go out and bathe in the river behind Mani Manjari's family estate there. And at 6 a.m, all the boys would get up and we would go, and our start of our day would be full of brace to get in that cold water before sunrise. But it was wonderful. After you get out, you feel so good. So every day in Krishna consciousness can be full of brace. If we take the proverbial cold bath and rise early before dawn and chant is the first thing we do in the day. It's like the coveted COVID vaccine. The chanting of 16 rounds while keeping regulative principles is like the vaccination against illusion and suffering in this world. It fills us with a bright, attentive mind and a fresh heart for the day. And that allows us to tolerate all of the unexpected setbacks or disturbances that inevitably come with life in this material world, in this material body. So this is Srila Prabhupada's gift. He received this gift from his spiritual master, this life full of grace, and then he gave us that gift also, a great personal sacrifice. So now I'd like to read a poem I wrote to try to describe my relationship with Srila Prabhupada and my experience with him, the sacrifices he made, the sacrifices he inspired from me, and how that relationship stands today. You could have stayed in Brajadham, where chanting is most sweet, or moved to holy Navadvip in spiritual retreat. Your godbrothers had temples there with room enough for you to sit and speak on holidays to a visitor or two. You could have said, "It's Krishna's will, my visa was denied. I may have failed, but now I know at least that I have tried." Your patrons said you'd die abroad. Your godbrothers just scoffed. You could have said, "Who'll meet the boat and guide me safely off?" You could have had one look at us and asked, "What have I done?" and caught the next boat back to home, unblamed by anyone. The Westerners, you could have said, can go to hell and stay. Who would have disagreed with you? We were well on our way. Instead, you laid your final years like flowers at Krishna's feet. Siddhanta's smile, your hidden guide, Thakur's vision in reach. Producing 80 volumes as you guided us along, you showed us how to cook prasad and teach Lord Krishna's song. And as we teach, the boys and girls from every land on earth come forth to serve you, Prabhupada, renewed in second birth. I could have been a PhD had I but stayed in school, piled up a couple million, built a fancy house and pool. I could have written novels, legislated laws and rules, or been a famous music star. I could have just been cool. Instead, I laid my youthful years like flowers at your feet. Malpouras caused my interest, and samosas my defeat. My dad said, son, you're brainwashed. My friend said, you're a fool. My blunders as a Vaishnava were many, triumphs few. Reflecting on my bygone youth as one my age is prone, I wouldn't trade your glance for gold, your words for precious stones. This morning on the Japa trail, the northern star shone down. So fixed and true, it seemed like you, with devas dancing round. Then dawn concealed that starry stage and lit a wintry scene of all I am and all you are and all that lies between. Srila Prabhupada's trip to America, he had so many opportunities to give up. But he kept going because his guru's pleasure was always motivating him to try. And this is something we all share as followers of Srila Prabhupada. Really, the distinction between disciples and followers is virtually non-existent, because Srila Prabhupada's Vani is the life and soul of every follower. Some devotees were very fortunate to get lots of association with Srila Prabhupada, but he said that it is my instructions that will really matter in the long run. He said the physical association of the spiritual master is for the fools, but the instructions of the spiritual master will be honored and cherished and observed by every intelligent disciple. I had a personal experience of this when I was a young man. I was 21, and as most of my peers, we hankered to have Srila Prabhupada's personal association and do personal service for Prabhupada. And we thought if we ever got to do that, that would be the real experience of Krishna consciousness. So I was on a traveling book distribution party, and we went to Chicago in 1975, where Srila Prabhupada was visiting. And there my friend Apurva said, would you like to help me cook lunch for Srila Prabhupada? And I said, yes. Wonderful. And I was thinking, finally, personal service. So he taught, I didn't know how to cook anything, but he taught me how to make sandesh, which is mostly just labor intensive, kneading and kneading and kneading and kneading the curd. So I did that, made my first sandesh. And then he said, would you like to offer the plate to Srila Prabhupada? I said, thank you so much. Yes, of course. So I brought the plate in the room, and there was Srila Prabhupada, just me and Srila Prabhupada. And I placed the plate on his desk and paid obeisances as instructed and left. Prabhupada looked at me and didn't say a word. Then after a while, I was listening, he rang the bell, which indicated he was finished. So on hearing the ringing, I went in, paid obeisances, took the plate. Again, Prabhupada looked at me, didn't say a word. So I was thinking, all right, well, he didn't say anything, but at least I'll get Prabhupada's Maha Prasad. And this will be the benefit of this personal association. The moment I closed the door to Prabhupada's room, the door across the hall opened, and there was Prabhupada's secretary, Brahmananda Swami, all 300 pounds of him. Where's Prabhupada's plate? Took the whole thing. But before he took it, I saw that Prabhupada had eaten a couple of sandesh. So I was so happy, thinking, yes, this is what I've been waiting for. So the next day, my friend Apurva Prabhu, the chef, said, Prabhupada was complaining, why are so many men staying back from book distribution to cook for me? So my notion of what would make me happy in Krishna consciousness was not at all what Prabhupada's notion of what I could do to make him happy in Krishna consciousness. So I learned from that. It is the Vani, it is the instruction that keep us going. Just as he kept going when everything was working against him and everything seemed insurmountable. So I wonder if anyone at this point would like to ask any questions or discuss anything, share any realizations about Srila Prabhupada. Otherwise, I can go on and read more. It's up to you. Does anyone have any comments? All right.
Please go on, Prabhuji. We're in rapt attention.
Hare Krishna. Okay, here is another. Okay, sorry, a little technical problem here. There we go. All right, this is a poem called Prabhupada's Son. Well, we know this verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Yasyasti Bhaktir Bhagavatya Kinchana Sarvair Gunar Tatra Samasate Sura. That one who practices devotional service develops all kinds of good qualities, all the good qualities of the demigods. So in remaining in Krishna, to stay in Krishna consciousness, really, I feel like if you can just stay, then everything will be all right. Even if there's discrepancies here and there, gradually the effect of remaining in Krishna consciousness, continuing with our practice, will have its effect. So this is in this poem, I'm trying to describe what are those effects of being in Prabhupada's service. When you confront Arjuna's situation, unsure if you should fight or just pretend, and thinking of Lord Krishna's affirmations, toss out the slightest thought of giving in. If you can do your duty when it pains you, without a hope of hearing, job well done. If you accept the fact that some outgain you without a jealous thought toward anyone, if in this ugly, brutal world you're able to offer something lovely to the Lord while keeping bread upon your family's table and making service done its own reward. If you meet all your worldly obligations and reap the crop you broke your back to plant, aspiring for the highest destination and tolerating those who say you can't. If you can take the blows inflicted on you as minimized reactions to your sin and turn your pain to strength for serving Guru, determined not to leave the Lord again. If you no longer crave the worldly tempest on radio, online, or on TV, and pick up Srimad Bhagavatam with interest and feel yourself quite fortunate and free. If you can keep a gentleman's demeanor when every circumstance conspires to rile, and thinking of the Lord within, remember that every spirit soul deserves a smile. If you no longer think of sex as pleasure, as everybody does when they are young, and find yourself contented with the treasure of Krishna's holy names upon your tongue. If you can chant your rounds when some around you are setting down their beads and blaming you. If you can keep your vows when Maya hounds you, ignoring her advice to chew the chewed. If you encounter faults among devotees, some weaknesses in those you thought were strong, and sit with them to share some dal and rotis, and realize not all they do is wrong. If your own faults and follies overcome you, obscuring those in others you may see. If true appreciation flows out from you each time you greet another devotee. If you can be straightforward in your dealings and shed the taste for gossiping and lies, while working in a way that fosters healing without thinking yourself too good or wise. If you trust those of greater realization to guide your own devotion to the Lord, make friends with those who share your situation, and kindly help the novices move forward. If you can set aside your own conceptions and take Gauranga's order on your head to help one soul forsake this world's deceptions and take to Krishna consciousness instead. If you chant Hare Krishna loud and often and fill your days with service nicely done, the gatekeepers of Goloka Vrindavan will welcome you, your Prabhupada's son. When Srila Prabhupada visited Gainesville in 1971, he was invited to an interview on the University of Florida campus television station. And he came to the interview and received from the interviewer a very good question. He said, how do we tell a true follower? How do we tell you're a true follower? Very thoughtful question. Now, Prabhupada could have answered that question in so many ways. My true follower chants Hare Krishna. My true follower reads my books. My true follower is has a shaven head or wears a sari or wears tilak. But he said, my true follower is a perfect gentleman. So perfect gentleman or lady means that one can live without committing offenses. That one can be tolerant, that one can be humble, that one can be oriented towards serving others and not thinking about oneself first. So these are the good qualities that develop in the devotee. It is based on, excuse me, the instructions from the Nectar of Instruction, or Upadeshamrita. Utsahan Nischaya Dhairyat Tat Tat Karma Pravartana. Utsahan means enthusiasm, and Dhairyat means patience. So these seem to be contradictory qualities. How can you be enthusiastic and yet patient at the same time? But that means a slow burn, a sustained enthusiasm that is steadfast and determined. That's the other quality. Nischayat. That one is very, very determined and consistent in one's service. Now, this is called determination in the mode of goodness. It doesn't rise and fall passionately. It doesn't seem like a big drag and burden. It's just a steady burning flame of eagerness to serve Krishna, to enjoy the pleasure of devotional service, the reciprocation that Krishna gives us. So when we look at Srila Prabhupada's life, we see the perfect acharya, the exemplary teacher who not only theoretically presents these things, but shows in his life. So those of us who are fortunate to see Srila Prabhupada got a glimpse of this steady determination, unbendable, unbreakable determination, along with all proper manners and respectful dealings with others, tat tat karma pravartana, sadhu sangha sato vrite. And then staying in the association of devotees, always dealing with saintly persons and being honest, sato vrite, dealing with straightforward qualities. So Srila Prabhupada exemplified all of these qualifications. He was a very slight man, thin and also short in stature, about 5'4". So when you'd see him, you would feel like, in spite of his small physical stature, you would feel like I'm seeing the most powerful person in the world. And he never blew his own horn and talked about how great he was. He would just talk about how great Krishna is and give that appreciation to everyone. He would also always speak in the straight line of disciplic succession in which he had been trained. So you would see this with Srila Prabhupada wherever you saw him. I had the opportunity to see him about 40 times, far from an intimate disciple, but I got to see him give classes, go on a couple of morning walks, attend a couple of darshans. And wherever he was, Srila Prabhupada was always talking about Krishna. He was always thinking, he could see the wheels turning. How could he spread Krishna consciousness? How could he help this particular spirit soul who's with him who Krishna had sent to him. How could he help this person become Krishna conscious? There was one instance in the Philadelphia airport. Rabindra Swarup Prabhu tells the story. There had been a press conference when Srila Prabhupada arrived, and reporters from many papers and stations came to cover the event. So after the press conference was over, Prabhupada was walking down the terminal hallway, and a reporter came running up to him, a television reporter who had missed the press conference. He ran up to Prabhupada and said, "I'm sorry, I was delayed. Could we just ask you a couple of questions here?" Prabhupada was very gracious. He said, "Yes." So thank you, thank you. So the cameraman started setting up his camera, which were big and bulky in those days, not like the little cell phones we have today. He put it up on the tripod already, okay. And the reporter said, "So what kind of Buddhism do you teach?" So Srila Prabhupada very patiently said, "Well, we do not teach any isms," he said. "We are teaching the truth. And if you are truthful, you will take it." So the interviewer was just looking at Prabhupada like a subject to get a little clip in on the news. But Prabhupada was looking at the spirit soul in this newspaper reporter's body or this television reporter's body and saying, "And if you're truthful, you'll also take this." So Rabindra Swarup Prabhu commented that he felt that Prabhupada had more compassion for this person than probably anyone in his life, except perhaps his mother, this total stranger he was just meeting. He said, "Yes, if you are truthful, you will also take it." So these are the qualities that I saw in Srila Prabhupada. But I just have to say that today, we are very fortunate because we actually have much more access to Srila Prabhupada than we had in those days. Now there are so many biographies of Prabhupada or memoirs of those who had a lot of association with Prabhupada. There are films, audio recordings, all indexed and sorted and organized. And there's just so much opportunity to associate with Srila Prabhupada. So sometimes we find Srila Prabhupada's teachings are like a pharmacy. You know, in the pharmacy, there's so many medications. And if we as patients just walk into the pharmacy and say, "Oh, I think I'll try this, I think I'll try this," we're very much at risk of getting the right particular medication for our needs. So approaching Srila Prabhupada with this vast amount of teachings in Vani, we can take guidance from those who have better knowledge and understanding, the expert physicians who know Prabhupada's teachings, who know all the different medications, and prescribe for us what we need for our particular ailment. This is the combination that really works best. Even in the days when Srila Prabhupada was physically present, it was like that for almost everybody. We would take initiation from Srila Prabhupada, but generally by proxy. We'd be recommended by a senior devotee, and then Prabhupada would write to the senior devotee and say, "On your recommendation, I'm accepting such and such as my disciple." So we had this connection with Prabhupada through his representatives, even in those days. And this system goes on, the parampara, in a very powerful way. If we have this combination of Prabhupada's medications and then some guidance from an expert physician, then there's every opportunity we can cure the material disease from which we may be suffering. All right, I have one more poem to read, unless there's any comments anyone would like to make on these points. Okay. So this is a beautiful drawing of Srila Prabhupada by Kalakantha Prabhu. And this poem is called "I Have No Opportunity." So this was a poem that I composed from recollection of class Srila Prabhupada gave in April 1975. This was just after the Chaitanya Charitamrita had been published, actually the first few volumes. And Srila Prabhupada was reading the Adi Leela. It was in April, and of course that's when the festival is usually over, but we were waiting in Mayapur for the Vrindavan temple to be ready for the deity installation and opening on Ram Nomi. So it was wonderful. Each day Prabhupada was reading a verse from the Chaitanya Charitamrita from the first volume. In Mayapur in 75, the hot season had just arrived. As morning coolness faded fast, we listened as you gave the class. Adi Leela 113, Advaita, same as the Supreme, Acharya, one who always shares Chaitanya's movement everywhere. This particular verse is about the glories of Advaita Acharya. So Prabhupada defined an Acharya as one who knows the philosophy, practices the philosophy, and teaches the philosophy. You said, my guru was most pleased to see more and more devotees. Not only him, but Krishna too, himself does what he asks us to. Aritranaya sadhunam, vinashaya chaduskritam, dharma samstapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So Prabhupada quoted this verse showing that even Krishna comes to try to help others in their spiritual lives. He then went on, unflinching faith in both the Lord and the Acharya bring you toward proficiency in Vedic texts completely and in all respects. This is the verse he was quoting. Yasya deve para bhaktir yata deve tata gara tusyete katita hyarta prakashante mahatmanaha, from the Shvetasvatara Upanishad. The importance of the guru. And he went on. And when you follow cent per cent, you too can teach and represent the past acharyas in our line when you mature in course of time. Yari deka tare kaha Krishna upadesh, amar agyai guru hana tara edesh, from the Madhya Leela. So he was giving this class. For those of you who've been to Mayapur, you know today the temple room is very large, and of course they're building a really massive one. But at that time, the temple was in a relatively small room where the Chaitanya Murtis and the Chaitanya sculptures are displayed off to the side of the temple. So that was the whole temple room. And there were about 200 of us there. And we were mostly in our late teens and early 20s and wearing mismatched socks. And he was looking out over us and saying, yes, you can also represent the acharyas in the disciplic succession. To be acharya is not tough. Just follow yours, and soon enough, wherever you live in this world, you'll broadcast Krishna's sacred words. You simply say what Krishna said without concoctions from your head, or mimicking like parrots squawk. Assimilate, and then you talk. This is an important point. Prabhupada said that. If you can just understand the philosophy and present it in your own words, because people in different parts of the world will know best how to present it to other people in their part of the world. And then Prabhupada started drilling down a little bit. Our devotees are, I would guess, 10,000 worldwide, more or less. When you become acharyas, then you'll multiply yourselves by 10. 100,000 soon shall be 1 million acharyas. You'll see. 1 million then will soon expand to 10 million. That is my plan. Acharyas in such quantities assure us of no scarcity. Since many, many are required, you organize and be inspired. Just follow your acharya's words and try to make yourself mature. Although this age is dark indeed, sincere disciples shall succeed. Remain sincere, that's all I ask, and make this present birth your last. You are all young, not old like me. I have no opportunity. And suddenly you fell in trance, aloof from outer circumstance, not knowing quite what else to do. 200 of us stared at you. So silent was that temple hall, one could have heard a petal fall. As bliss absorbed you, I sat still, but now it's time to do your will. So this is one of the few times when Srila Prabhupada exhibited these ecstatic symptoms in public. But the vision of 10 million teachers of Krishna consciousness, exemplary teachers all over the world, put him in ecstasy. So we may wonder, what is the point in sharing Krishna consciousness? What can I do? You know, this was a feeling that Prabhupada expressed when he was a young householder. What can I do? All these sannyasis, these big shot disciples, they're traveling all over the world, or they're doing so much for you. They're working full time, working hard. I have a family to maintain. I have a business to maintain. What can I do? So his guru said, just teach Krishna consciousness in English. This will be good for you and for your audience. So this is how Srila Prabhupada saw us, very unqualified, but with the potential to reach others. And however our external situation may be, if we are enjoying our Krishna conscious experience, it will naturally flow out of us. If we're not enjoying it, then we have some work to do on our own spiritual practice. Now, why should we practice Krishna consciousness? Because it's just so much better than a life in ignorance. I had a very interesting contrast recently, just this last month, actually. One of my friends, his wife, who is a young lady, 36, contracted cancer and was undiagnosed very abruptly. She went in for some minor health question and left the hospital hearing that she would have about 4 months to live. She had stage 4 colorectal cancer, which had spread to all of her major organs. And then there was my mother. My mother was 100 years old, and she had seen a lot in her life, including her son become a Hare Krishna, which did not make her very happy. So she happened to have a bad fall and broke her neck. And so both of these people in my life just passed away within the last 2 or 3 weeks. This young lady was named Shyamala Dasi. So, well, she elected not to even try the chemotherapy or radiation treatments, which could have extended her life only a short time anyway. So very much in the mood of Maharaj Parikshit, she and her husband and her parents just resolved that she would just prepare herself to go back to Godhead. And she had such a bright attitude, it would have you would be astonished. This was not a fearful transition for her. It was like very clear in her mind where she was going. Her spiritual master, Indradumna Maharaj, would talk to her on the phone, and he said, "Get a place ready for me in Goloka. That's my assignment to you. You go ahead and you get my place ready, and I will see you in a while." So she left her body in this very, I have to say, the only way I can describe it is an upbeat mood. She didn't even need nearly the degree of painkillers that typically people in their last days need. So she was like on one side of the equation. My mother, on the other hand, she had much pain after her fall and could only really just, when she would wake up, she would just ask for more medication because the pain was so great. And she left her body in a kind of semi-conscious state, not really understanding what the whole thing was about. You know, her purpose in life was to enjoy, and she squeezed every drop she could out of that material body that Krishna had given her for 100 years. Only 1 in 50,000 people lives that long. But as the Bhagavatam says, what good is it, a life of long duration when it's lived without knowledge of the soul? So one of my friends, consoling me for the loss of my mother, said, "You know, your mother was Krishna conscious her whole life. She was thinking of Krishna from the day that you became a devotee." And I said, yeah, but it was in the Kamsa school of meditation. She was thinking that darn Krishna. But as Lord Nrsingadev said to Hiranyakashipu, to Prahlad, excuse me, after killing Hiranyakashipu, that his great devotee, Prahlad, only asked, please bless my father. That's the only thing I ask. And Nrsingadev said, don't worry, your family is delivered 14 generations, past, present, and future. So my godbrother Rameshwar Prabhu was a student there at Reed College in the early 70s when he discovered Krishna consciousness and moved into the temple. So his parents, who lived in New York, were very upset. They were, he had gone to Reed College because he wanted to be as far away from his parents as he could geographically. But there he discovered Krishna consciousness, he became a devotee, and they were very upset. His father was a rather intense attorney. He said, what are you doing? And Rameshwar Prabhu said, Dad, I'm just doing this for you. So a life lived in Krishna consciousness it really pays off when you need it. That's what I saw in seeing these two loved ones leave this world recently. Shyamala, a very simple young lady, she was totally prepared and didn't miss a beat. And my mother, even after a long lifetime, she really had no idea what was coming next or what it was all about. So that's the gift that Prabhupada gave us. If we can be prepared for leaving this body, then what else do we have to fear? If we understand that this world does not owe us a happy living or a happy condition, then what do we have to fear? What expectations are there? So this is Prabhupada's great gift. And as it said in the first canto of the Bhagavatam, when we try to describe the glories of Krishna, it is a hopeless task to try to describe them in full. All we can do is like fly across the vast sky as like tiny birds. How much influence do the birds have in the sky? So how much can a devotee describe the glories of Krishna or Krishna's pure devotee? We try our best. We come together and hear and discuss these topics, and then we become uplifted. We become braced. We become empowered and prepared for the great trials ahead of us all when we have to leave this material body. And in the course of these trials, the life of Krishna consciousness is just so much better. My wife and I once calculated how much money do we save by following the regulative principles for the 38 years of our marriage. We started to figure the costs of all these things involved. We figured it was about $250,000 saved just by following the regulative principles. So, Srila Prabhupada, it is said, once made the remark that even if there was no Krishna, it's still a better way to live. So these are the gifts Prabhupada gave us, a happy, manageable, small carbon footprint life in this world. And then the peace of mind that comes with knowing where we're going and what it was all for. So thank you for allowing me to share my little attempt to glorify Srila Prabhupada. I'd love to hear from any of you, my dear friends there, who have comments or would like to share realizations. I see you, Sri Pradat, God's sister. Would you like to share some of your realizations about our spiritual master?
Well, Mataji, we can't hear you. I think you might be.
I think she's trying to unmute.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to do. Every time I contemplate who Srila Prabhupada is, not just to me, but to all of us, I usually get emotional and start to cry. So I'll try not to do that. But yeah, when I look back on the life I was living as a young person, my background, I came from a very disturbed and troubled childhood. I had a very sick mother and mentally ill, and she was very abusive. And so I remember being young, around 13, thinking, this can't be right. This is not what it's supposed to be. And so I said, God, if you're out there, you must have left us a clue. Please send that clue to me. And 7 years later, he sent the clue. And that was the Bhagavad Gita. So I have to say that Srila Prabhupada saved my life. I don't think I'd even be here if it weren't for Srila Prabhupada coming to the West and making that incredible sacrifice. And when I think about what he did, it seems unimaginable to me. I'm a pretty adventurous type of person. I kind of pick up and go, and I don't think a whole lot about, oh, what if this happens? What if that happens? I just do it. But what Prabhupada did was unfathomable to me. I just can't even imagine doing what he did, and with very little resources and virtually no real connections in the West. So, I'm forever grateful. What you said, Kalakantha Prabhu, about knowing at the time of our departure, knowing what the purpose of this life was for, gives us such peace. But not just peace. It also makes us courageous. We have courage that we wouldn't have otherwise. People either die in fear, they die angry because they're in denial about their death, or they die peacefully because they know that it's just a transition. It's just a doorway to something so much grander. And for the devotee who's been aspiring, to reconnect with Krishna, that is it's a real blessing. So that's my realization is I'm dead without Srila Prabhupada. He brought me life.
Thank you. Did you see Srila Prabhupada in person?
I did, in Los Angeles. He had been in India, and then right after that, I think he went to Hawaii, and then he came to LA and spent some time there. So I got to hear his classes in person, and it was just truly amazing. Just to be in his presence, truly amazing.
Yes, it was. And now another few years, and all of us who had that opportunity to see Srila Prabhupada will be leaving this world. So we share what we can, but the main thing we can share is the power of the Vani. Prabhupada's instructions has kept us going all these years. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I'm fine.
Okay. Anyone else like to share any realizations?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Kalakantha Prabhu, thank you for accepting Jai Satchidanandana's Prabhu's invitation to come and speak with us. I was inspired because the devotees that have been in your presence and been through southern or mid Florida have all had very, very positive experiences about their cultivation of Krishna consciousness. And so I was excited about seeing how you applied it. And I think that just seeing your electric mridanga and kind of, the keyboard setup, I think that it's very encouraging for all of us to see modern applications of devotional practices from devotees who care so much about Srila Prabhupada, because it shows us how we're allowed to be in the future. So it shows us kind of how much higher the spiritual sky can go. Simply to answer your request of sharing something with about Srila Prabhupada, not because I feel at all qualified to do so, I'd like to share something that occurred just yesterday. So we're here in Portland trying to do some outreach programs, and so during the week we're distributing some books, and we distribute little invitations to meet at a park to have discussions and to have snacks and such. And actually one person is showing up, but I remember some months ago feeling that I didn't have any qualification to do a thing like that. You think about the qualification that Srila Prabhupada had to sit in a park, and that is not just a soul sitting in a park. That's not just any soul sitting in a park. And so I thought, I can't just sit at a park. And so I told my dear friend this, and he said that my Guru Maharaj actually said that one acquires these types of qualifications by trying to take responsibility for the spiritual well-being of others. It's not actually that we get it first and then we can do it, but it's actually by chasing rhinos that a person acquires this kind of thing. And so yesterday I had an experience of explaining the Vedic literature, or how Sri Krishna reveals the Vedic literatures to Sri Brahma, and Sri Brahma passes it down to his disciple, and so on. And while it takes us billions of years apparently to receive it, when we hear it, Paramatma is in our heart. And so I really understood what Prabhupada meant, that there's no difference between hearing the Bhagavad Gita on the battlefield as Arjuna heard it, and Paramatma in your heart, who is the original speaker of Bhagavad Gita, being there. And I kind of just really understood what it meant to receive the message through disciplic succession. And I thought that was just, I've been listening actually to Ravindra Swarup Prabhu, because I'm taking the disciples course. And so he gives this very, very, very nice class on Srila Prabhupada's position, and he's speaking about, it's contextualizing a little bit of our sampradaya within the previous acharyas. And so I was feeling, he's talking about how Srila Prabhupada would always give credit to Bhaktisiddhanta, and that when we look at his life, we should not try to understand what a guru is like, but try to understand this is what a perfect disciple is like. And I was just connected to Srila Prabhupada a little bit, because he always mentioned that, like, just don't change anything, don't add anything, and not on your orders are you doing anything, but because of the guru. And so I just wanted to say that, and thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. You're taking a risk for Krishna and getting all that reciprocation. That's so nice. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right. Jai Sachinanda Prabhu, shall we call it a class? Do you have any thoughts you'd like to share?
That's a profound, concise manner you have of presenting so many instructions by Srila Prabhupada in such a poetic format. It's very moving to read these poems. We have Aarti going on, and I certainly don't want to disrupt that. We usually chant the Maha Mantra. But is it possible to go back to the very first poem you showed, if devotees don't mind? Can you show that very first poem?
Prabhupada's Vyas Puja poem.
No, the one that you wrote.
Okay.
And if you go towards the end.
Okay. Okay, this one.
Yes. Okay. Yes. If you can go to the last stanza there. Yeah. Can you scroll down?
And this morning on the Japa trail, the northern star shone down so fixed and true, it seemed like you and Davis dancing around. That's
Right. The next one.
then dawn concealed that starry stage and lit a wintry scene of all I am and all you are and all that lies between.
Yeah. I found that very profound. I wanted to try to understand what you were hinting at, where you said, all I am, all you are, and all that lies between.
You know, this is one of the things that really seems important to me to help devotees understand that we're all devotees. And this term pure devotee is held up as something that's just so remote and distant and maybe in 500 lifetimes. But from that last poem I read about the acharyas, Prabhupada wanted us to, he didn't see things, he didn't see us like that. He saw us, yes, we're committed, these are committed devotees, these are acharyas, even though we're very young and inexperienced. And I sometimes feel this is a trick of the mind to say, oh, Krishna consciousness is so remote and so difficult to achieve that I can't do it. Therefore, I won't try. You know, this is the way the mind's telling us. And it's better to think the way Prabhupada saw these things, that we are devotees. If we're not involved in karma or jnana, in our philosophy of life, then we're pure devotees. I mean, we just think Krishna consciousness is all we want to do and practice, and that's adequate for us. This is pure devotion. Now, a pure devotee may be ripe, like Prabhupada, sweet and succulent, like a perfectly ripe mango, or maybe green and still in the process of maturing. But this is the difference, you know, that we can be more committed to our Krishna conscious practice if we just understand that we're on the path. Prabhupada has placed us on the path. We're making progress. We cannot force ourselves to mature any more than you can force a mango to mature and to ripen. But we take inspiration from seeing what a pure devotee who is mature and fructified and fully ripe is, like Srila Prabhupada, full of all the amazing auspicious qualities. And then we can see ourselves, how we are not there, but that should be not a cause of discouragement, but a cause of encouragement. Okay, I'm not yet mature, but I'm in the right place to mature. So that's what I'm trying to say in that last line. All I am, my shortcomings, my immaturity, and all you are, the fully ripened manifestation, and all that lies between. All that lies between is just 16 rounds and 4 regulative principles every day, and a lifetime in service as best we can offer it. And that is taking us closer to Srila Prabhupada every day. Is that all right?
It's more than all right. That's wonderful.
The other thing about the stars are such an amazing thing. You know, you see them. I live out in the country now, and the nighttime panorama of stars is really amazing. And they're also beautiful and also just unfathomable. Then when the sun rises, you can't see them. But we forget they're still there. We can't see them, but they're still there. It doesn't mean they've disappeared. So similarly, Srila Prabhupada is maybe not in our physical presence. We don't see him, but he's still there. He's just as profound and powerful in our lives. So that's what I was trying to convey in these 2 stanzas.
Beautiful. Yes. You're blessed how you can say such profound things in such wonderful ways. Thank you. Anybody else want to ask Prabhuji questions? So, I don't know what your availability is, Prabhuji. We usually have devotees sing Hare Krishna Mahamantra until about 12:50, and then Narsinga their prayers. And Are you available to sing that? Or
Prabhuji, I'd love to stay, but I have another obligation. So
thank you.
it's such a nice opportunity to see you all, have your association. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai. Thank you for joining us, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the invitation.
Would one of the devotees like to sing till 12:50? I see there are a lot of nice devotees online. Somebody inspired? Diego Prabhu, why don't you sing for, if you can, until 12:50? And then if a devotee is inspired to sing Narsinga Day prayers, you can do so.
Sure, Prabhuji. I'm outside walking to get some boga. Sorry.
Okay. Is anybody else available to chant Mahamantra?
I can sing, Prabhuji. This is Kalakantha Das.
Sure. Till 12:50.
Okay, Prabhuji, sure.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Nitai Sachinandana, Nitai Sachinandana, Nitai Sachinandana, Gaura Hari, Jaya Nitai Sachinandana, Nitai Sachinandana, Nitai Sachinandana, Gaura Hari, Jaya Radha Shama Sundar, Radha Shama Sundar, Radha Shama Sundar, Sri Radhe, Jaya Radha Shama Sundar, Radha Shama Sundar, Radha Shama Sundar, Sri Radhe, Jaya Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava, Sri Radhe, Jaya Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava, Sri Radhe, Jaya Radha Madan Mohan, Radha Madan Mohan, Radha Madan Mohan, Sri Radhe, Jaya Radha Madan Mohan, Radha Madan Mohan, Radha Madan Mohan, Sri Radhe, Jaya Radha Brajvihari, Radha Brajvihari, Radha Brajvihari, Sri Radhe, Jaya Radha Damodaro, Radha Damodaro, Radha Damodaro, Sri Radhe, Jaya Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda, Sri Radhe, Jaya Radha Gopinatho Radha Gopinatho Radha Gopinatho Sri Radhe Jaya Radha Ramana Radha Ramana Radha Ramana Sri Radhe Jaya Jagannath Jaya Jagannath Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra Jaya Balagopal Laddu Gopal Balagopal Jaya Laddu Gopal Jaya Radha Nila Madhav Radha Nila Madhav Radha Nila Madhav Sri Radhe Jaya Kishore Kishore Jaya Kishore Kishore Jaya Kishore Kishore Jaya Kishore Kishore Jaya Giri Govardhan Giri Govardhan Giri Govardhan Jaya Giri Govardhan Jaya Krishna Balaram Krishna Balaram Krishna Balaram Jaya Vrindavana Dham Jaya Krishna Balaram Krishna Balaram Krishna Balaram Jaya Navadvip Dham Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha Jaya Panchatattva 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 Jaya Panchatattva Jaya Gauranitai 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 Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Nitai Gaura Chandra 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 Jaya Nitai Gauranga Jaya Nitai Gauranga Jaya Nitai Gauranga Jaya Nitai Gauranga Jaya Nitai Gaura Chandra Jaya Nitai Gaura Chandra Jaya Nitai Gaura Chandra Jaya Nitai Gaura Chandra Jaya 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 Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Gurudev 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajkacharya Ashtotara Shatashi Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajkacharya Ashtotara Shatashi Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj ki jai ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki jai अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय श्री मधुर धाम की जय नवद्वीप मायपुर धाम की जय पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय गंगा माई यमुना माई की जय भक्ति देवी तुलसी देवी की जय कलियुग पावन हरिनाम संकीर्तन यज्ञ की जय सामवेद भक्त वृंद की जय हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol all groups to the assembled devotees all groups to assembled devotees all groups to assembled devotees all groups to Shri Guru and Gaurang all groups to Srila Prabhupada ki jai Srila Gurudev ki jai Mancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhyo Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. We're seeing Narottama Das Prabhu is showing the darshan from this morning of the temple and the deities. And then we'll have devotees sing Nrsimhadev prayers. Poonam Mataji, do you want to sing Nrsimhadev prayers?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Do you feel comfortable singing Nrsimhadev prayer?
No, Prabhuji. Please, there are other devotees who have melodious voices. I'd rather hear them. Thank you.
Well, the melody is nice, but it's not essential. Please sing. You're a very nice devotee. Devotees don't judge devotees based on the musical performance, but on the strength of their devotion. So please sing for the pleasure of the Lord. Once, if you know the words, or if you have the book in front of you, you can songbook. You can look at it and read it and sing. So it's done for the pleasure of the Lord, not for a musical performance sort of thing. Devotion counts. Okay?
Okay, Prabhu. I will try.
Yes, you can do. Thank you.
Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Prahlad Daine. Prahlad Daine. Hiranyakashipurvakshaha. Hiranyakashipurvakshaha. Shilatankanakalaye. Ito Narsimha Bharto Narsimha. Yato yato yami tato Narsimha. Bahe Narsimho Edaye Narsimho. Narasimhamadem Sharanam Prapate. Namaste Narasimhaya. तब कर कमल बरे न काम अद्भुत श्रृंगाम दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु तानुभृंगाम केशवद्रीता नरहरि रूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय नरसिम्हादेव जय नरसिम्हादेव नरसिम्हादेव जय नरसिम्हादेव जय प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय नरसिंह भगवान की जय प्रहलाद महाराज की जय श्री गौर निताय की जय
Thank you very much, Mataji. Beautiful. The Srila Prabhupada has just finished Nrsingadev Arati as well. So temple is open from 1 to 2:30 today, as usual on Sundays. Please come to temple if you and when you get a chance. It'll be nice to receive the blessings of the deities directly. Of course, chanting the holy name is also likewise. Once again, we want to thank Kalakantha Prabhuji for what I think we would all agree was a wonderful, amazing presentation on Srila Prabhupada and his mercy and his instructions. Upcoming announcements. So